Okay. Thank you again. Thank you very much everyone for participating. Thank you very much for coming. I said quite a few times. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much again. Thank you. And now we're going to again go through the teachings of our gracious teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni and Guru Padmasambhava, all those lineage masters who taught first time gracious teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, and then continually carried by so many great practitioners, what we call great masters. They continually carried, so they are the Sangha members. Sangha members continually carried these precious teachings of non-violence, peaceful, harmony, respect, and appreciation, and discovering our one's own innate beautiful nature, and also helping to support to others to discover their innate natures. That's what really we're going to talk again continually. You all know already, received so many teachings from the many great masters, and you already practice it, but somehow this what we're doing today is will be reactivated, re-strengthened, reminded our practice in meditation, where we are studying, where we are going, and what is our destinations of this spiritual or the practice journeys. So that's what really we do doing, according my capabilities, and then some degree it support. So I wish. And again, to do this, to start with the practice and the teachings, always so important to recorrect our intention, or glorifying our beautiful, sleeping, beautiful motivation. We have to wake up that. We have beautiful motivation, beautiful intention in our heart and mind, but many times is in the sleeping mood. So that when it's sleeping, then that's a sleeping siesta or whatever this is. So we have to really activate it. We have to bring that alert and the freshness status. Every day we have to fresh, not just once in a while, in the month and the weeks or something. Really, according to the teaching, we have to activate and refresh this motivation. It's so glorious motivation, is so important, so necessary. All our practice, all our realization, all our fulfillment are absolutely based upon our one's own motivation. And who controls our motivation? Nobody else controls our own motivation. Each of us have 400% the one responsibility and capability to activate it and to redirect that. If we don't redirect that, then what is? That's called the samsara. Then we are continually heading to the samsara or all these difficult challenges. But this time, according to the gracious teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching, and the lineage teaching, we try to make some difference in this, our own these precious lives when we are here. Right now, really, right this lifetime, we like to make something, some fulfillment, some degree, that we can enjoy ourselves, and we can also at the same time happy ourselves, and also some degree to our families, friends, and neighbors, others also make some degree happy, particularly those who are kind of a little bit relying or we are connected, and we can do. That is what we call in the Dharma, we are making the meaning for our lives. That is really meaningful. That is common, that is ground, that is practical, that is very sensible. It's really sensible and practical. It is so powerful. That's it. So the order to do that is our motivation. And now, of course, always the great masters, when they give teaching, always said, recorrect the motivation. That is always said, because it's so important. Important. It's not just I'm saying that, it's kind of. Every time when they give sessions, teachings, say correct the motivation. We already know, we are practitioners, we receive the teaching, and we heard that, but it's not just on the memory banks or somewhere else, but really activating is so important. And this time, activation of the motivation is joy and appreciation first. Feel happy and joy ourselves. We have every right and every opportunities. It's not just the making up the stories. You ask yourself, or each of us, ask ourselves, ask me, and I'm going to ask myself, and also you ask yourself. We have every reason to feel happy and joy, beautiful things, at the spiritual level or dharma level, as well as samsara world level. We are quite well equipped. Really, every aspect we have to glorify, happy, joy. That is dharma according to Buddhism. It's not something that we are making detours. Happy and joy, but I also have the same time courage and commitment to continue to activate it, glorifying that. Along with that, then vastness motivation of the bodhicitta. Of course, we also heard so many times. I heard, you heard this bodhicitta. But it's not just a heard, intellectually know, kind of in a vague memory status. Activating. Activating, that is so important. Bodhicitta is. The essence of bodhicitta is a compassion. That we know. Paul boundless. Among that, many times in the teaching said, the boundless of loving kindness, boundless of compassion. Come there on front of the bodhicitta. Really, from the core of our heart or the bottom of our heart, activating that. Have that bodhicitta, thinking about all living beings. That thinking about all living beings is bodhicitta. That is bodhicitta. Everybody has some degree of compassion, loving kindness, but everyone is not thinking of all living beings. Mahayana or the bodhicitta, thinking about all living beings. Even and you all know, we heard that, they put front of all the beings than ourselves. They are the front of us in a way, or they are more important than us. What in the teaching said? We've been continually for a long time being the self-important, self-centered mind, ourself. That didn't really work at all. We continually went in the samsara, even in more deeper in the samsara. Samsara of the world of duality, challenge, difficulties, dissatisfactoriness, uncomfortable, and nothing is correct, nothing is right. That all happening, one after another. No matter whatever we are surrounded, even the luxurious lab, we are sitting in the luxurious lab, still is not enough, still is not correct. That's really we are. I'm not saying that few people, but we all have that degree, and more we want. More we have, more we want. And that goes on and on until our last breath. Maybe we have that. Then there's nothing to do. We go with the disappointment, some degree, unfulfillment. But instead activate joy and appreciation, love and compassion. Really we become rich ourselves. Rich and content, joy, and appreciate all those beautiful things that come up. So therefore, this bodhicitta, vastness in the teaching said, vastness motivation. Vastness, the motivation of thinking about all living beings. Beings that I'm going to practice, I'm going to meditate, what all my activities of the body, speech and mind, may they become as one of the great support and helper to bring the joy, peace, happiness for all living beings, for mankind, for the animals, to every living beings that we see, we don't see, and that we know or we don't know. But there's so many people, beings are struggling, really wishing good intention thought. That is essence, heart, the central column of the Mahayana practices, or the central column of the Buddha's teaching, greatest teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. And that, not just the Buddha said, that echoed by all those great practitioners or great masters, continued one after another. And since we are the follower of those great masters and those great beings, Also, we should activate that. It really makes sense. It's meaningful. It makes happy and joy in the performance. And then together with that, and then we have the skillful means motivations. Those are in the teaching said, Vajrayanas, reality level, everything is enlightened status, or everything is enlightened or where things are as it is. Where things are as it is, everything is enlightened. Everything is in a divine mandala status. But why we don't see this? Because due to the duality. Duality is like cataracts of our eye, we don't perceive things where things are. So, therefore, even though we are in the midst of the duality, we try to activate the original quality, seeing everything as in the divine mandalas, or three Vajra status, or the three Kaya status. And the three Vajra forms, all the forms are enlightened. Vajra means what, actually? Indestructible. Indestructible in this term, what means? This cannot be changed. Nature of the form is enlightened. It cannot change in any circumstances. Reality, that is a fact. Fact cannot be changed, destroyed. It's like Vajra. Whether we recognize that, whether we don't recognize, fact, is enlightened, is purity status. And sound is Vajra status, is mantra, divine sounds, love and compassion, soothing, and all the Vajrayana teachings or the teachings. That is, again, whether we recognize or not, that is the fact. Therefore, it's called cannot be unbreakable, like Vajras. And the mind is enlightened. That is also Vajra mind and Vajra space. All this enlightened status. And the Dzogchen teaching said it's three Kaya status. Three Kayas. Forms are the Nirma Kayas. Sounds are the Dharma Kaya. And mind is forms are Nirma Kaya. Sounds are the Sambho Kaya. I'm sorry, maybe I mixed up that. But mind is in Dharmakaya status. It's originally enlightened. It's not something newly we are developing through the process of the practice, meditation, according to teaching. And through the process of the meditation and practice, that is then become the compounded. Compounded is temporary. You develop it by the cause and the condition, developing, then it can change. But nature cannot be changed, therefore it's called Vajra, as it is. The enlightenment is only discovering. Of course, in the Dzogchen teaching said, and you all know, is the discovering of our inner nature. Nature midst of the duality. We clear away the duality and discovering of the original, that completely fully awakened qualities. That is a Vajra, discovering the original state of the three Kayas. So those are really, even though we don't have realization right this moment, but trying to kind of bring up those, at least open the door of toward that directions is very important. And of course, this is the kind of way, and in a way is the intellectual way. We're just covering and connected that, but that intellectual, according to the teaching, it is lined up with the true nature. It's not false. We're making the progress. We open the door of the reality of the true natures. Also with those understanding, and now we go to this sadhana, sadhana or the practices or the teachings. This is, again, of course, this is here said short discourses, course on the view, meditation, and conduct. So that is what I'm trying to go over this slowly by slowly, and then kind of like discovering our some degree of the teachings of the great teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni and Guru Padmasambhava, lineage masters. So that's what we're really going. And again, to do this, again, so we think, of course, we all know this, but always is important to trace back where we really come from or where this teaching belongs or come from. This teaching is come from the gracious teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, and who came 2,600 years ago. And Buddha is full of love, full of compassion, full of wisdom, understanding everything exactly perfect, exactly as it is, without exaggeration, without understatement. Exactly see things are, where things are. Those are known as the wisdom of the enlightenment. When you get enlightenment, or when you are enlightened, so there is no blockage of the veils between reality and the knowledge. Seeing everything as it is. See that. So then Buddha gave detailed teachings of this. And also Buddha gave the many teachings. Buddha knows exactly what to give the teachings. When, for example, the audience comes to the gracious teacher, to the Buddha Shakyamuni, in the teaching said, Buddha immediately recognized, see that person's the intention, desire, and motivation, what they interested in. Accordingly, Buddha spoke, had the discussions with them, and then end that audience is full of happy and joy and satisfaction, with deep respect, bow to the Buddha's lotus feet, and left place with joy and happy and fulfillment or satisfaction. Because why? This is because Buddha knows exactly what is capabilities, what is necessary, what is important, what suits teaching to that individuals. For that reason, when Buddha reached enlightenment age 35, he gave, since age 35 until he entered Mahaparinirvana age 81 or 80 around that time, and Buddha gave the teachings that according capabilities, desires, motivation, and so they can apply everyone. No one is turned back way, and everyone can follow the path. Path is to discover our own innate nature, our own or one's own nature. Path is not something alien, that is, Buddha is told. Path is to discover our or each of their innate nature. With love, with compassion, with non-violence. And therefore, there's many teachings. That's what called Buddha's teachings. It's called 84,000 different topics or the teachings that Buddha gives. Those teachings are named in the teaching said that because of, why that many teachings? Because our emotions, there's so many emotions, negative emotions. Negative emotion, there's three principal negative emotions that we, of course, we heard so many times. The ignorance, attachment, and anger. Each of those, that is called, there is 20,000 and 21,000 related principally connected emotions of the ignorance. 21,000 of the emotions related with the attachment, and 21,000 emotions more connected with the anger, and 21,000 emotions more connected to all combination, three of them together. So for that reason, Buddha gave 84,000 teachings. 84,000 teachings. And what in the teaching said, or in the Dzogchen teaching, said, in order to dispel or purify the 21 negative ignorant emotions, Buddha gave 21,000 teachings of the Abhidhamma teachings. And in order to dispel of the attachment of the 21,000 emotions, Buddha gave 21,000 different teachings related with the more Vinaya teachings. And in order to dispel or to subdue of the 21,000 of the anger related, And Buddha gave 21,000 of the Sutra teachings. And in order to dispel all those negative emotions, 3 emotions, 21,000, Buddha gave 21,000 of the Vajrayana teachings. All together, 84,000 teachings. Those are the teachings. So now these all teachings, when they summarize, and what is these teachings are, can be summarized into 3, to simplify what's commonly known as 3 basket teachings that we all heard. And what are those 3 basket teachings? Again, I just listed that, of course you know all. And that is Vinaya, basket teaching of the Vinaya, basket teaching of the Sutra, basket teachings of the Abhidharma. So 3 basket teachings. Why is it called a basket? Because the basket means that it's treasure, as a treasure box. Treasure box has not just one piece. There's a variety of treasure in that one treasure box. So Vinaya basket has a variety of the jewels, treasures. What are again related with the conduct, with the morality, with the concentration, with the wisdoms. So there is jewels of the teachings on the specifically highlight of the morality teaching, specifically highlight of the teachings of the concentrations, specifically teachings highlight of the wisdom teachings within the basket of the Vinaya. Vinaya is generally named as like conduct, the morality teaching all, but within that has all those 3 treasures. And similarly, Sutra teaching has also that 3. So it's called like basket, all that 3. Sutra has a morality teaching, Sutra teaching. Sutra has a concentrated teaching, Sutra has Abhidharma teachings, all the wisdom teachings. And the Abhidharma teaching has also the same thing, and has teachings of the morality, teachings of the concentrations, teachings of the wisdoms. So that means essence of the 3 basket teachings comes to what? It comes as a truth, what in Buddhism called longer chu, tokpa chu. The scriptural teaching and the practice teachings, or realization or practice teaching of the practice, teaching of the scriptures. Scripture teaches all those sutras, what I said. But practice, what do you practice? The essence of that is the practice. That is practice on the moralities, practice on the concentrations, practices on the wisdoms. These 3 are in the Buddhism. You all know 3 extraordinary training practices. What is train? Train our body, train our mind, train our speech, voice. So it's become more gentle. Body become more gentle, peaceful, and more calming to ourselves or to the others, or pleasing to others and ourselves. And the speech become more calmer, more peaceful, more gentle, more polite, more simple, more frank and simple. And mind become also more calmer, more peaceful, joy with love and compassion, and not bustling with all different discursive emotional thoughts, one after another, every different direction. It's become calmer. Therefore, it's called a training to ourselves. By what? One's own self. As we receive the teaching, we will also activate that by practice. So in that context, this teaching, what we are going to talk is the teaching is, again, among those like 3 basket teachings, this particular teaching is Vajrayana teaching. And now maybe you're thinking, Vajrayana teaching belongs where? Vajrayana teaching belongs to again, in the three basket teachings. Within the Vajrayana teaching, it has morality teaching, it has a concentration teaching, it has a wisdom teachings. And what are the morality teachings of the Vajrayana teachings? Morality is all the samayas. Wow, those are the morality teachings. It's different names. Morality, maybe they didn't mention it all the time, but samayas. Samaya is guidelines of the conduct. Conduct of our body, our verbal thought, verbal communication, as well as our mind, how we mind acted. So that is really, that is a samaya. And concentrations or the samadhis of the Vajrayana teaching, such as then all the concentration practice, meditation, such as Tsa, Long, Tomo practices, all the visualization practices, those are highlight of concentration and a samadhi meditation. And what is then wisdom practice of the Vajrayana teachings? As according to Dzogchen, then Dzogchen is the wisdom practices, teachings. It is directly connected with our own origin and nature, our own mind, or discovering our innate natures. So that is known as the wisdom practice. So that means Vajrayana teaching is also within the categories of the three basket teachings. Vinaya of the Vajrayana, Vinaya teaching of the Vajrayana, Sutra teaching of the Vajrayana, and Abhidharma teachings of the Vajrayanas. Abhidharma teaching is a highlight that Dzogchen teaching is the Abhidharma teaching of the Vajrayana teaching. Highlighted that according to the Nyingma schools of Tibetan Buddhism. And then of course each again has all that. So those are generally understanding. And now this teaching, this particular teaching is who taught by great master who came in the in the 19th century, or the late 19th century and early 20th century. Great master, known as, already here, I'm sure many of you already know this. And that is, then his name is known as Shechen, Gyaltsab, Pema, Namgyal, Shechen. Shechen is the monasteries in Eastern Tibet, one of the famous Nyingma monastery universities, as well as meditation centers in Eastern Tibet, known as Shechen monasteries. Actually, in the Nyingma schools, particularly more kind of in the mid 15th century or mid those centuries, there is then developed the kind of named 6 famous monasteries in Nyingma monasteries. 6 famous monasteries. That kind of, I think, more activated around mid 15th century or around that times. Those are the 2 famous monasteries in the central Tibet, known as the Mendeling Monastery and Dorje monasteries. These 2 monasteries are so famous because it has also academic studying and meditation research. Why these 2 are important? To uphold the teaching of the Buddha is need studying and practices. So I can more particularly associated highlight of the studying is academic or Hyeda. That's what in the Tibet called Hyeda, academic study. Because the Buddha teaching is not just the only kind of believing practices, you also investigate, analyze, and study, contemplating on those meanings. That's what great teacher Buddha Shakyamuni himself said that you should examine, investigate, not just only relying on my words. Those are the teachings said, and therefore, since the Buddhism begins from the 5th centuries all the time, then then there has always been studying. That is a big one, famous is like Nalanda Monastery University in India, and then so forth. So that's the teaching said, and it is also a great master, Basu Bendu said, what is the teaching of the Buddha? He said the Buddha's teaching is sacramental and practices. And how you uphold that practice is starting and practice. That will uphold Buddha teaching. So that in that context, in a way, what we're doing now is in a way a little bit starting, kind of understand, bring a little more understanding of that. That means we are upholding teaching of the Buddhas. Once we know that, and then we start to practice, meditate, that means then upholding the practice aspect of lineage, that will bring the realization, because the teaching itself is really explaining of the nature of our mind, nature of all these phenomena. When you see this, ultimately everything comes to the mind. So when you practice that, then you discover our innate nature that upholding the Buddha teaching. So for those context level, in the Buddhism, all the monasteries, they have, particularly those bigger monasteries, they have then this Sheda and the Drupdas. So for example, Mandoli Monastery has a Sheda and a Drupda, not just only the Mandoli Monastery, Mandoli Monastery, and has so many branch monasteries too, and the Dorjeta monasteries. So those are two famous monasteries in the central Tibet, and each of those has so many branch monasteries and monasteries throughout the Tibet. And in the eastern Tibet, there's 4 famous monasteries. Those are known as Shechen Monastery and the Dzogchen monasteries, and then Kathok monasteries and Payar monasteries. Those are 4 famous monasteries, and then each of those has really so many branch monasteries. So famous. Among those 6 monasteries, said particularly Kathok monastery is one of the oldest monasteries in eastern Tibet. Actually, I think that is developed, I can't tell exactly that, but maybe around 11th centuries. Around 11th century, it developed. It's one of the big, really famous monastery that kept so strongly of the lineage teachings of all the teachings, particularly Nyingma teaching, and particularly Nyingma teaching, there is 3 teachings in a tantra. Anu Mahayoga teaching, Anu Yoga teaching, Ati Yoga teaching. Those 3 teachings, particularly very much, they kept so strongly in that monasteries. There is so many practitioners, so many academics, and practitioners who are practicing. Who've been practicing at that time. I mean, this is the story. The people said they are practicing on the mountains, hermitage, and they got high realization, and they also actualized of the Tsa Long Tomo practices. And in the afternoon, many of those exercises of the Tsa Long Tomo practice, particularly Tsa Long Tomo practice, they are flying in the sky. Those said, the villages used to say, oh, don't with the horse. Don't go up to that area, because these practitioners, the practice and flying in the sky, that scared the horses. So really, that was the story. Very famous, uphold the lineage teaching, particularly Nyingma Kama teaching, like Dharma teaching and Kama teaching, and particularly Kama teaching is so become famous, and therefore even named Kathok monastery, particularly Kathok Dorji Di. That means Dorji Di is Buddha Gaya's name. So this Kathok monastery is like as a Dorji Di, or like Buddha Gaya, where so many enlightenments are booming up, coming up. That's what it said. So among those 6 monasteries, this Shechen monastery is one of the very famous monasteries, where there's so many great masters came one after another. And even those in the teaching said, first, for example, this Pastor Chinse, Pastor Kuntro, and the Pastor Rinpoche, they all started in the Shechen monastery, one of the great masters, Shechen Pendatas, very famous masters. So he was really very famous. Among that, and then this Shechen Gyaltsab is like continually regent of the Shechen. That means Shechen, there is three famous lamas, and among that, the first one is the head of the Shechen monastery is Shechen Ramjan Rinpoche, which is now still very active in India, in Bhutan. And the second is the Shechen Gyaltsab. Shechen Gyaltsab particularly Shechen Gyaltsab become very famous, really famous. He was he was born, I think, 1781 in Eastern Tibet, and his father's name is known as the Sherab, and the mother's name was known as Namgyal. He was belongs with the official something said, but anyway, he was recognized by the first great Chense, when the former Shechen Gyaltsab was passed away. He was a very good practitioner, really good practitioner. He's known as Ramjung Dorji, I think. Ramjung Dorji, when he is going to pass, that when he passed, he even mentioned, I'm going to come back. Now he said, my body is become very old and very kind of feeble, and I think it's just better to leave this body and be back as a young boy, young child with good health. I like to come back. So he mentioned it, and with those said, and then he entered Mahaparinirvana. And when he entered, and then those students asked where his reincarnations, particularly to first grade Chense, and then very famous Dzogchen master, head of Dzogchen monastery, also known as Dzogchen Manjur Nangkut Dorji, is very famous, really Dzogchen masters. So they asked two of them, and they both identified the same child, and particularly Shechen, person Chense gave, and then he enthroned as a Shechen monastery, and then he started practice it, and particularly really he started with so many great masters in his teachings from the first Chense, first Kumtrums, and as well as many Kaju Lamas. I mean, that time, the Buddhism, that what we call now Rimi movement, is really started by the first great Chense and first Kumtrum. They become the master of the Rimi movements. That whole Buddhism, golden shine era of the Buddhism rose again at that time. Really so harmonious and peaceful. Everybody is practicing, meditating, yet they just respect and appreciate to everyone, and they just become so blended. And so this great master, one of those great, if I say, Rimi practitioners from the Nyingma schools of Tibetan Buddhism, and he started with first Chense, first Kumtro, first Maharambo, and not great master Maharambojas, and he become the heart students, all those great masters. And then as Khenpo Trachi Ozer and Surming Trungpa Rinpoche, that who is the former Surming Trungpa Rinpoche of who came of this country, the previous that one. And so he's received so many teachings. Those are just highlighted, so many, and the teachings, the practice. He become the masters of all the teachings, and then he meditated the practice. He got so high realization, and the scholarly work. He also wrote, I think, more than over 15 volumes of books, teachings, and his foremost disciples are His Holiness Tingon Chense Rinpoche and the Shechen Kumtros, and as well as so many really lamas. There are those so many great masters from both Kaju and as well as Nyingma schools to become so his disciples. So that this is the what Shechen Gyaltsab Rinpoche, commonly known as Shechen Gyaltsab, and then his full name is Gyurme Pema Namgyal. So that is how this Gyurme Pema Namgyal is. And now we go over this little bit of this this teaching. Of course, again, always the teaching is divided into three groups when you go through these teachings. Always, that's how, in the teaching, all those great masters explained. So I try to follow with those instructions and with as much as I can. Now in this way, on this teaching is divided into first two groups, the title and the text itself and the colophons. So those are the three kind of first divisions. And the first now title. Title is, then we already read, is in Tibetan, Tagung Jopa. Tagung Jopa. So, wu, meditation, and conduct. That is explained in this here. Now, if I kind of summarize this Tagung Jopa, what is this teaching? Again, as I said earlier, this is the three extraordinary training practices. Three, what are those? Those are morality, concentration, and the wisdoms. Wisdoms. Which are which? If you talk this, that conduct is morality teachings on the moralities. And meditation is concentration, samadhis. And then wu is wisdoms. So this is teachings on the morality, teachings on the meditation, teachings on the wisdoms. Have that way. Have that understand. And now, another way, that is really the principle, grounds. Now everything of the wu. What is really wu? And again, this teaching, this title explaining the essence, condensed meaning of the entire of these teachings. Entire of this teaching. So title is like a summary of the teachings. So it captures the principal meaning of the entire. And now, this first begins with wu, and then meditation, and then conduct. Now, wu, generally, wu means what? In a way, it is object. Wu is object. And what means? That means, because we are going to woo in the wu. Woo in the wu. That means wooing. The wu, that means wooing can maybe, maybe better, but means that's something that you're going to look. To what you're going to look? To the wu. You're going to look to the wu. That I think you also said, I'm wooing. When you say I'm wooing, that means there's something to woo. Woo. So now you're going to wooing. It's maybe not easy for me to pronounce that, but you're wooing the woo. Woo. Oh, somebody told me that you're doing. Where you're saying that you're saying woo, 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 and woo, woo. So either way, I hope you understand what I'm talking. So that's the principle. That's the more important, and you're wooing now. But this time, what are you wooing? This time, you're wooing the nature, not the artificial. You're really wooing the nature exactly as it is. And this, if we could talk a little larger level in the Nyingma teaching, the great master Mahan Rinpoche also said, it's a Nyingma teaching. View of the object, view view of the appearance or object maybe. View of the object as it is, view of the nature of the object, and the view of the one's own awareness. So there is three views in a way. This is a more kind of like a larger level views that. What means the view in the object of the view on the object of nature as it is? That is in the Vajrayana teaching, particularly, for example, in a Tantra teaching, all objects are the enlightened. All objects are enlightened. And that is such as in Gohengarba teachings. All the elements are 5 female Buddhas. And all the 5 aggregates are 5 male Buddhas. And what are those elements? For example, or maybe let's say with the 5 aggregates. Form is Buddha Vairochanas. And our form and feeling is Rena Sambhavas. Feeling aggregate. Perception aggregate is Buddha Amitabha families. And consumption aggregate is Buddha Amoghasiddhas. And then consciousness aggregate is Buddha Vajrayana. Is already enlightened. And all these 5 elements are already enlightened. It's not just all enlightened. All are is enlightened. And earth is Sangye Chemam. In Tibet, it's Sangye Chemam. And I think in Sanskrit, Buddha Lochanam. I don't know that will help you anything, but it is. Earth is enlightened. Buddha Lochanas. And water is enlightened mother. Mother Mama Kiss. And fire is enlightened. Mother Kukarma in Tibet. White robes. And wind is already enlightened. It's known as Tamsak Droma. I think Sanskrit, Samaya Taras, already enlightened. Sky is already enlightened. It is known as Vajra Dhatu Shorims, or Dorje Yung Soma. So that means all these 5 aggregates, 5 dhyanas is already enlightened. Enlightened is already. It's not something newly developing enlightenment. Or the discovering something, or we are developing that enlightenment. Not, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say discover. It's not, we are developing that. It is already enlightened, we discovering by the practices, meditations, we discover. So that means that the object is enlightened, subject is enlightened. All is enlightened status. That is really reality, nature, according to teaching. It's not something that we're really developing. So that means that is like what? Seeing object, nature of the object as it is. The view that seeing the object of object as it is. Object as is, as enlightened. Then seeing the nature, or seeing the nature of an object as it is. Nature of that object is what? Is all emptiness. Emptiness. There is no substantially solid, concrete objects. All emptiness. So that means earth is enlightened. Earth is, emptiness. Fire is emptiness. Wind is emptiness. And the earth is emptiness. It's emptiness. There's no substantial solid existence. So seeing nature exactly as it is. And then, as well as our form, feeling, as well as conception, perception and conceptions and consciousness, all emptiness. Again, now what that means actually emptiness. Because even though we see all things, but reality, if we check that carefully, investigating or analyze through the intellectual level, if we try to find the core of existing something, there's really nothing we can find. That is what called emptiness. It's totally openness, totally pervasive, and freedom. This appearance of this as object as it is, and that nature of the object is totally union. Totally union. That means there's no separable, no separations. For those reasons, in the Heart Sutta we chant too, form is emptiness. Emptiness of form. Emptiness of form. So that means, for example, if we kind of trying to make that little clear to our mind, maybe more understandable. Our mind is the emptiness. And we're trying to find where is our mind. Always we know that in the Dzogchen practices. But then, emptiness is a mind. That means it's not just, when you say emptiness, it's stop the mind, it's arising. But it arises, there's nothing that we can say where it's coming. That's how the nature is. This is not just only on the mind, these forms. It's all that in that nature status. Form, sound, space, all form, feeling, perception, conception, consciousness, all. But that emptiness, that flexible qualities, the pervasive nature, that is in the Vajrayana teaching or in the higher Buddha teaching, that's enlightened. That's so totally flexible, pervasive, unending, unceasing. Yet there is nothing. That's called magical display. That's what's called in the teaching said interdependent. It's all connected. Yet there is no substantial solid existing. Concrete solid existing. That's the way the world is. That's the way our form is. Our body is like that too. Our mind is like that. Really. Therefore, many times it said, mirage beings of the mirages, beings of the dreams. It's not just making up this fancy stories kind of beings. Reality is really like dream. Dream or mirage. Reflection in the moon and water. Those are used examples by the great teacher Buddha Shakyamuni to discover this nature and trying to loosen our fixation duality mind. This fixation duality mind is so fixed, so strong, reality is not like that. That's why we got always headaches and troubles, really. All the troubles, headaches, difficulty, challenges, all this. Those great yogis, yoginis, those great practitioners, everything is enlightened. And even they sang the song, alalas. Alala, everything. Samsara is alala, nirvana is alalas. Really, they sing. It's not just making up. They're full of the realization, is blooming with calm and peaceful, joy and soothing and everything. That's what they call transform the samsara into nirvana. Nirvana. And nirvana. For that reason, great master Master Nagarjuna said too in the teaching. Teaching said, there is no samsara, or the end of samsara is nirvana. The end of nirvana is samsara. I don't see any difference between samsara and nirvana. There is even the slight of the hairs. Reality is all is mind. Duality mind created. For that reason, also great Master Mohan said, Khenpo Rinpoche spoke many times that quotations. When you give up or when you are free from the duality, that is the end of samsara. That's the end of samsara. So that means now you're nirvana. So nirvana is not something that we have to traveling far. Wherever you ended, or wherever we are able to end our duality, that is nirvana. That is not just a nirvana, that's a akanishta. Akanishta, or the pure land that what often in the teaching is beyond the duality. We are right there. That's how it really according to teaching. So viewing of the exactly way the way things appears, viewing, seeing everything as an enlightened status. And of course, now, present moment, we won't perceive that. But intellectually, we understanding, theoretically with some understanding, that is called view of the analytic. View of this view. Analytically viewing something that closer to the nature where things are. That is a good view according to Buddhism or according to teachings. Analytic views. Views. And that is enlightened. And now, so now I explain, sorry. Now, I explained briefly about these two views. The viewing the object as it is, and viewing the nature of the object as it is. Both are in the union status, and that is so both are union. And that is what in the teaching Mahayoga, the Gohen Garba teaching said, and great purity of the relative truth. Great purity of the relative truths. So that means everything is enlightened, great purity. And that is the great purity. Seeing the object as reality, nature, as reality of object as it is, seeing the nature of the object as it is. That is in Gohen Garbhatanda teaching said, and the great equanimity on the absolute levels. Absolute level. So that means what you see clearly as it is relative. Is form is we say form is like as a Vajrayana, and feeling is like Vajrayana Sambhava. Still we are kind of nominating that in one way, the 5 different groups, and the 5 different ways of the nominating of the 5 elements is relatives. Where mind is following, and one after another. The absolute truth is nature. Nature of that. That we cannot follow our mind. That's what we to activate that call it emptiness. Emptiness. Emptiness is we cannot really follow. We see maybe intellectually something or empty something. But this emptiness is, of course, you all know. We heard that so many times. It's not blank emptiness. Not negation emptiness. Not kind of complete absence emptiness. Emptiness, maybe that's in a English word, means it is like has fullness it has. Fullness of the potentials. The potentials is all these aggregates, for example. Elements are from that emptiness. Not emptiness, it's not blank. From that everything is arising. It's open because there's openness. It's never contradicting, not crowding. It's allowance. Emptiness is allowance. It's vastness, spaciousness. For example, if we look to our own mind is emptiness, we said. I mean, it's not just we said, we don't find. Even intellectual, skeptical, we say that, where is mind? I don't think they have any answer. Never found any answer until today. Maybe in the future, who knows? Really, even the great intellectual, skeptical, and so famous, all this, what they found? There's no history to find. Or I don't believe, maybe they say. That's it. That's the answer, but that's not a solution. Believe, I don't believe. That is like what's called a very desperate statement. I don't believe. So that's it. You don't have anything to say. That's really desperate. According to Buddhism, that's a desperate statement. That's it. You end it right there. Blank. Block states. But from that, the emptiness. From this openness mind, all thoughts are coming. You never heard thought that congested thoughts. Or the traffic jam of thoughts. Oh, really? How open this? That's the vastness. That tells nature is totally open. Not totally. And also so much possibles. There's no restrictions. That's how the emptiness is. But that emptiness is that display of the emptiness. Emptiness is in teaching, in the Mahayana teaching as well as the Vajrayana teaching. And is really Dharmakaya. That emptiness is Dharmakaya. This is not just only the Vajrayana teaching, even in Vinaya teaching, that means basic Buddhist school teachings. For example, great master, great Buddha's disciples, two disciples, Shariputra and Mongolputras. First they met Buddha's disciples. One of the 5 students, known as Tathuru. Tathuru is very famous, according in the teachings. The Buddha said, among all my students, Tathuru has the best conduct. Among all the students, Tathuru has the best conduct. So when Shariputra, Mongolputra, both are searching for their teachers. They went many different places. I'm sure you maybe heard, maybe you don't, I won't talk all that. But then, now they came to the where Buddha is residing, and the Buddha knew, true, that they are there, and now they are really ready to connect to the Dharma. Shariputra, Mongolputra, they're so intellectual, so highly developed, and so scholar, and so smart, yet they're searching for their spiritual answers or Dharma answers. Went to many teachers, they didn't get satisfactions. And then they just came to the Rajagiri, near the Vajrayana mountain, the famous capital of the Magadhas that time. Magadha, they came there and came. Buddha was also resided there. And Buddha saw now is the time, help to them, to usher to the Dharma. And Buddha saw how they will be inspired by the teachings or by the conduct. Buddha saw immediately. So, or by conduct. They were inspired by the conduct. And then, so Buddha saw that. And so then Buddha told to Tathul, Buddha called among the students, Tathul, you must think there is two guys, Shariputra and Mongolputra, you mustn't think. When Buddha said that, Tathur is already enlightened to arhathood. And he immediately understood what Buddha means. And he accepted, cheerfully. Next morning, Tathol, and of course, traditionally, every time morning, every day they go to the city on the up morning and get the one meal from the villages. So in the morning, and the Tathol dress up so nice, whatever he have, that Dharma robe, of course, so many, not many, and hold the arms both here, and with the perfect conduct, perfect movement, and he walked toward the Shariputra, Mongarpatra, resided, particularly Shariputra's. Far distant Shariputra saw. Shariputra saw how beautiful conduct that person has. Where he walks, where he dress up, and so kind of centered mind, calm and peaceful. He'll walk. I'm going to go ask him, who is your teacher, who you are? And then he came to Tathor. And Shariputra asked, who you are? And he said, I'm Tathor. And then, who is your teacher? And my teacher is the Buddha. Buddha. And the moment he heard the name of the Buddha, the Shariputra, the hair of the pores come up. Really, something it made him. And what is that, his teachings? Or that you will know for him. But the essence of a teaching, what it is? Essence of what that is, what his teachings. And the essence of teaching is that Shariputra, or the Tathor repeated, such as, in a Sanskrit, we chant, Om Ye Dharma, not Om Ye Dharma, Hedu Parvavai, Hedu Inteki, Tathangata, Hayovat, Tekinsaya Narod, Evam Bade Mahasharmana, so. Mahasharmana. That he chanted. That teaching is generally the interdependent mantra we call interdependent. But it is the teaching, essence of teaching of the Four Noble Truth. And the suffering truth, cause of suffering truth. And the cessation, and Sasheka truth, and the path truth. So that what that explaining is all is dependent. Suffering truth is dependent cause of suffering truth. It's not just arising by itself. It has cause. Nirvana has cause. It's path. So that is where they connect. Is interdependent, connected, and not the two pieces of object connect. There is a variety. Ingredients. So many ingredients come together producing one result. That we know when we plant the seed. Not just the earth is enough, not seed is enough. There need so many things put together and produce. That moment he heard Shariputra, he got the realization, wow, I never heard that word like that. And he just really got. And I want you more, said. If you want more, you have to go to see my teacher. Teacher, you go to see teacher. And then Shariputra and Mongarpatra, they're the best friend to each other. Really, in the Buddha teaching, said they are the previous karma. They have always been best friend to each other. That. So then both they told, if anybody got some realization, understanding, have to immediately share to the others. They made promise, committed, they made that promise to each others. So now Shariputra got the realization or some understanding. He's running toward the Mongalputra, and Mongalputra is so far away. Shariputra is coming, kind of glowing with full of a smiling, and he just looks at it. Then Mongalputra says, looks at you got the nectar. Yes, I got the nectar. And then he chanted that. And Mongalputra also really got his goosebumps. He got the goosebumps. And that's sort. Now, so they got, now we got the teaching. But now we should see. We see we got the realization, some realize. And now we saw the Dharmakaya, but now we should see the form body of this great teacher. So the teaching that what they got realization is like Dharmakaya. So that is really in the Vinaya teaching said that. Teaching. So this is what the enlightenment call it. So that's how it is. And then now And then what is it? Among that, so that's really the first two views among the in the Vajrayana teaching, in particular in Nyingma schools, the first two views. Third view is Rangrag in a Tibet is Rangrag Tawa Tawa. So first, maybe I didn't say it in Tibet. First is Chuchin Tawa Tawa, Chuni Tawa Tawa, Rangrag Tawa Tawa. Chuchin Tawa Tawa is the way object are reality, way seeing object with exactly reality of the object as it is. Reality level, that Chuchin Tawa Tawa in Tibet. Chochen, and Tawa is Tawai, Tawa, and Tawa again. And Taw, Chuchin Tawa Tawa. Chuni Tawa Tawa, same thing. Chuni, Chony, Chuni and Tawa Tawa is the same. Now, third one is Rangrag Tawa Tawa. Rangrag, Rangrigta, then Tawa. I think same thing. So it's the same thing, I mean. Right? Chuchi Tawa Tawa, Chuni Tawa Tawa, Rangrag Tawa Tawa, same thing. What that means, Rangrag Tawa Tawa, who perceiving that phenomena is enlightened, nature is enlightened. Who really perceive, or who viewing that? Ultimately, no other than one's own awareness. Rangrag is awareness. Awareness. So beholding the view of the awareness. Beholding or viewing the view of one's own awareness. That is Dzogchen practices, for example. Dzogchen practice, so when we practice a lineage, always talk to your mind, look to your mind. When you look to our mind, is there any subject and objects? In the Dzogchen level, Dzogchen teaching level, there is no subject and object. At the first instant, when we looked at, looks like we're looking something. But the moment you look that second or that moment, is dissolved. There is no subject and no objects. Now you're abiding the perfect, pure, pristine, the original natural state, which is not diluted by the dualities. That is the view. And so who is the viewing of the, for example, also of the all related truth are enlightened. All absolute truth are emptiness, they are in a union state. No other than our own awareness mind. But when we behold that, it's merged. It's completely merged and dissolved in that enlightened or beyond the conception status. So that is generally in the understanding of the views. And this time view is Dzogchen views. So we go more over next time. Let me more continue. Of course, this teaching is explained, and I'm going to slowly, but this is, I hope it will some refreshing of your understanding and your knowledge and contributing our practices. Okay, thank you very much, and I'm going to stop here, even though we started late. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And then I think whenever you already know that tomorrow we won't have the through the Zoom teachings on through Zoom, because I'm going to perform the empowerment that, and of course generally empowerment and Dzogchen teaching, all this is really esoteric, so much esoteric, very esoteric. But among that is really empowerment, I kind of feel is more esoteric, so I don't really feel comfortable to doing this through the Zoom internet, and just I don't really feel that, and also it won't help to, even if I do, it won't help you too. And also it is somehow, I'm trespassing so far, then I kind of feel that because of my capabilities and my situation. So do you understand that we won't have tomorrow the session on the Zoom, and then of course the morning and up evening and all those, and then Monday we started again, continue from this teaching. And then thank you very much for your understanding, and thank you everyone. Okay, thank you very much everyone. Thank you everyone. And now we do a few minute meditation, and then we dedicate the merit. I think it has short dedication. Yeah, it has all that. So we page 18 according to this, but first we do 2 minute meditation.